welcome back to DH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and we got some more new Kamigawa Neon Dynasty cards to talk about here. 5 new commanders that I want to quickly cover. And we are starting out with a real doozy here, Kodama of the West Tree. That's right, we did it. We finally completed the cycle. Everyone's been waiting for it, I'm sure. So now we have Kodama of the North, South, East, and West Tree, and Kodama of the Center Tree as well, for those who don't know. Printed in the original Kamigawa. For some reason, they printed 3 of them in the original Kamigawa, and then, you know, we didn't get one for years and years and years until Commander Legends came out, and now they decided to finish it off. So, Kodama of the West Tree, 2 and a green, Spirit, 3/3, with Reach. Modified creatures you control have Trample, so that's pretty good. Works great in any sort of an aggro strategy. Like, for those who don't know, modified means equipment or aura. It has to be an equipment or aura you control. That usually doesn't really matter that much, but and a counter. Counters is the big one here because, man, you think about like a Avenger of Zendikar, right? You put all those counters on those plant tokens, and they now all become modified, so they automatically have Trample. So I think, for me, that's the big one here. I mean, giving Trample to creatures that you're buffing is always really, really important because you want them to get in for damage. So the counters one is the big one. There's a lot of counters decks out there, +1/+1 counter decks, I mean, that are making really huge vanilla creatures. You know, like you think of all the fractals that came out in Strixhaven, that they don't have Trample, right? Now they're going to have Trample, so I think that's going to be a really fantastic addition in the 99 of a lot of decks. But let's keep reading. Whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Wow. Oh, man. And it only costs 3 mana? Holy cow. They should have made this cost a little more, I think, because, again, in that +1, now in a +1/+1 counter theme, I think that's the best route to go here, because it's really easy to have a turn 1 creature, like Evolve or something. It's really easy to get those counters on those creatures really quick. Drop your commander down, then you swing with even just the turn 1 creature I played and the turn 2 creature I played, even if we're not ramping at all. Turn 1, I play a creature with a counter on it. Turn 2, I play a creature with a counter on it. Throw my commander down, and then swing, and now I'm getting, likely, unless my opponents all have a bunch of blockers, they probably won't. It'll probably be very easy for me to get in for damage with those 2 creatures, and I get to ramp for 2, right? I get to search for 2, because this is not 1 or more, right? The limitations that they've been putting on everything else, 1 or more, triggers only once each turn, that's not happening here, right? Apparently green cards don't get that. Whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player. Yeah, so every single one, every single connect you get, you're going to go get a land out of your deck. So again, in that Avenger of Zendikar scenario, you put a plant token on, or you put a counter on each of those plant tokens. You hit with 7 of them, you go get 7 lands out of your deck and put them into play. Oof. That is powerful. Yeah, this card is really good. That is a really easy build around. Even in mono green, that's a really easy build around. Like I said, I think the counters is the way to go. And also, this card goes in so many decks that already exist. It goes in the 99 of a lot of decks. Any +1/+1 counter theme, I think you want this in green, which pretty sure all of them are, right? The Simic ones, the Celestia ones, all of those, they're all going to want this card for sure, I think. You know, and there's probably a whole bunch more. Whole bunch of, any Voltron strategy in green, you probably want this. Every time your commander connects, One with Nature is a personal favorite of mine. Essentially, that's what's happening here, right? You're putting a 1 with Nature on all your creatures. So, I'm thinking, man, there must be a deck that I have that I probably want this in. I would probably put this in my Questing Beast deck. Yeah, I mean, I could. It's not super good there, but it's good there. It's good enough to put in the deck. Yeah, I think we're going to be seeing this card a lot. No question. But we are moving on to the Black Dragon in the cycle. So when you've now seen, the only one we haven't seen is green, right? So Junji the Midnight Sky, 3 black. And of course, originally Kokusho, the black version in the original Kamigawa, was far and away the most powerful one. Was actually banned in Commander for a while anyway. So, but we'll see what happens here, right? 5/5 Dragon Spirit, Flying and Menace. When Junji dies, choose one. Each opponent discards 2 cards and loses 2 life. Okay, that's pretty good. That's that. What I like about that is, I mean, yeah, you can do a discard theme. Again, we have to keep in mind here, and a lot of people said about the blue one, oh, you can bounce a bunch of tokens. Yeah, that's good, but do you want to kill your commander to bounce a bunch of treasure tokens? Maybe you do. Maybe it could be a life-saving thing, but now your commander costs like, what, 8 or something, right? Yeah, I mean, it might not be worth it, right? And the same with the case here. Are you going to sacrifice? It's a 5-drop. You sacrifice it just to make your opponents discard 2 cards, and then now you got to pay 7 for your commander. I mean, you're in black. This is the one where it's like, okay, black's got so much recursion that this is not. Your commander dying is not going to be that big of an issue. It can still be an issue though, right? So we got to keep in mind when looking at these abilities. I think people are getting a little too excited about these dragon abilities because they're not taking into account your commander has to be dying all the time in order to keep reusing it, right? And most of them are not fantastic enough that a one-shot is going to do that much, right? So anyway, let's look at the second one. I find that from all the dragons I've seen so far, there's one that's clearly better, one that's one of the dies ability that you're going to want to build around, right? So the second one is put target non-dragon creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield and under your control. So there it is, right? That's the one. What I like about this is nobody wants to kill your commander, right? That's one of the great things. This one in particular, the other ones a little bit, but this one for sure, nobody's going to want to kill your commander, right? Because if you're like people are going to be holding a board wipe in their hand and going, oh, I really want a board wipe, but I don't want to discard 2 cards, right? And even with the 2 different triggers, you can do a little negotiating, right? Obviously, this works particularly good against board wipes because when everything goes to the graveyard, your commander is going to see all the other creatures that died. So if someone just had a Vorinclex, like say someone wants the board wipe to get a Vorinclex or an Elishnorn off the table, right? They all go to the graveyard. This trigger goes on the stack, and you're going to look at the creatures that just died so you can get that nasty creature out of someone else's graveyard, right? Because this is a creature card from a graveyard. Yeah. Really good. Really good. This is probably going to be, I mean, we haven't seen the green one yet, but so far out of the cycle, this is the one that I think people are going to get most excited about. And again, works really, really good in the 99 of a lot of decks as well. Just a great card to have on the table. Again, against a board wipe, it's fantastic because, you know, all these creatures go to the graveyard and you get to pick whichever one you want to put back into play. You know, and even you can do that, right? Even you can cast a board wipe and then get the best creature. There's a, what is it, necromantic selection or something like that essentially does that. So yeah, this pretty good. And again, I would probably, you know, I don't even know if you have to build around that second ability. Both of them are pretty good. The second ability is definitely the one you're probably going to be using more, but I think that even then you don't really have to build around it that much. You could mill a little bit to make sure your opponents have some stuff in their graveyard. I think you could do that as well. But definitely a fantastic, like this is the best of the cycle for sure so far, no question. Moving on, and we got Tatsunari Toad Rider. 2 and a black, human ninja 3/3. So it looks like he doesn't have ninjutsu. So a ninja without ninjutsu. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, if you don't control a creature named Kimi, create Kimi, a legendary 3/3 black and green frog creature token with, whenever you cast an enchantment spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Okay, so it's enchantment tribal in looks like Sultai colors, right? Because he has another ability, 1 and a hybrid Simic. And I kind of wish they wouldn't do this. They're clearly doing this for commander players, right? They did the same thing with Toxrill, where Toxrill had that blue mana in there just so that you could make your commander deck have blue. It wasn't necessary. They could have made that a mono black commander and it would have probably been really powerful and also a very interesting card that could go in the 99 of a lot of decks. And when they do that, like put that Simic little dot in there, now you can't play this. And even though it makes it a better commander, now it can't go in the 99 of a lot of decks, right? So there's a lot of decks, maybe a black deck that's doing a lot of enchantments, and I can think of a couple off the top of my head, that now are not going to be able to use this card because of that. So, when they do that, and clearly they're doing it just for commander players, it makes it a better commander, but it makes it worse in the 99 because now it's not going to really go in the 99. Because how many Sultai enchantment decks are there out there, right? There's not really any. So, oh well. Anyway, Tatsunari, Toad Rider, and target frog you control can't be blocked this turn except by creatures with flying or reach. Okay, well, that's an interesting ability that has almost nothing to do with the first ability. Clearly, this is a flavor thing, so that's good. I like the flavor. The flavor wins are always big. It doesn't have to be super synergistic. It can just be a flavor win. And clearly what he's doing is making himself and his frog, because he's riding a frog, unblockable, right? Oh, can't be blocked this turn except by creatures with flying or reach. So he's jumping really high. Yes, I like it. I like the flavor win there. This is an interesting one. How would you build this deck? I mean, that you probably want to build around the first one. So every time you cast an enchantment spell, the first one you cast, you create your frog. And then after that, whenever you cast an enchantment spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So you get a drain effect every time you cast. I mean, it's minimal. It's okay. It is. I'll tell you what's nice. It's nice to have a Sultai commander that isn't busted, right? This is a Sultai commander that is just sort of. It's okay. It's definitely, I would say, underwhelming. You're not doing anything too busted here. I mean, the most busted thing you're doing here is maybe because it's a cast enchantment spell. It's not an ETB, so you're going to get a little bit of drain, but you're only getting that drain whenever you cast an enchantment. You can make your commander hard to block, not even unblockable, just hard to block. Yeah, very minimal. I like it. I like it. I like that the two abilities are very different from each other, so you can go in different directions. This might be one that I tackle myself. We'll see. I'd be curious to see what direction people go with this if I don't do it, It's kind of funny when you see commanders like this and then, a lot of people's heads, and that's why I like commanders like this. A lot of people's heads will go in different directions and you'll get completely different builds. Or a lot of times people will go all in the same direction because they think that there is one path that is clearly better. Or maybe there's a combo that I haven't thought of. We'll see, I guess. And moving on to Katori, Pilot, Prodigy. And this is I'm pretty sure the Precon commander. I'm ending up with a couple of Precon commanders here that really there's not much to talk about because I find the Precon commanders are just it's very obvious the direction you want to be going usually. So 1 white and a blue, Moonfolk Pilot 2/4. Vehicles you control have crew. So we have a vehicle, a Azorius vehicle commander. I guess we've already had vehicle commanders technically before. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target artifact creature you control gains vigilance and lifelink until end of turn. So yeah, very obvious what's going on here. You want to play vehicles. I guess vehicles you control have crew 2 means that you can have a vehicle that has crew 5 now has crew 2. Right, because every vehicle is going to have crew already. So now you can have crew 2 as well. So basically the idea here is because your commander has a 2 power, it can pilot anything, right? I think that's again, that's a nice flavor when I like that. Basically Katori is the Moonfolk Pilot that can pilot anything. And then at the beginning of combat on your turn, you can give that vehicle lifelink and vigilance. Pretty blah, I think. And it's an Azorius Vehicles commander, right? I guess you could give lifelink and vigilance to an artifact creature, like a Blightsteel Colossus or something. You could go that route, I suppose. And lastly today, we're going to talk about Chishiro, the Shattered Blade, 2 and a red and a green Snake Samurai. So now we have a Snake Samurai. I'm wondering if we had one before. Maybe we did. No, I don't think so. I don't think the original Kamigawa had any. It's a 4/4, and whenever an aura or equipment enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 red spirit creature token with menace. Okay, so that's interesting. That's really interesting. Right out of the gate, you have a Gruul aura and equipment commander. So that's definitely new. It's not Boros, so that's good. Also making spirits, which is interesting. So we have a little bit of spirit tribal in Gruul colors as well. Very interesting. Anyway, also has at the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each modified creature you control. So again, with the modified, they went pretty heavy with that in this set. So again, yeah, this is more probably of a go wide strategy, right? So like Akiri, the one Akiri, there's the Akiri, the Go Tall Akiri, the Voltron Akiri, and then there's the other Akiri that is more of a go wide strategy, I think, where you want to have lots of different creatures with equipments and stuff on them. This is more like that. This is more of a go wide or an equipment strategy, I think. Yeah. And that's why you want to create those spirits, then you want to put aura and equipments on them. And then at the beginning of your end step, and I like the end step trigger there, put a counter on each modified creature you control. You can do a little bit of a +1/+1 counter theme here as well. Helena and Elena, the new Helena and Elena might be a nice fit in this deck. This might be a nice fit in that deck as well. So there you go. A little bit of same synergy there a little bit. Definitely works. Grumgully again. There's a +1/+1 counter Gruul commander that I think Chishiro could go in that deck, and Grumgully could definitely go in this deck. I mean, Grumgully is going to put a counter on all those spirits entering the battlefield, right? Every time you create a 2/2 red spirit, you're going to get a counter on it right away. So, and now it's already modified, right? So that's a great fit because now immediately on your end step, that spirit's going to get another counter. So this one's a little more interesting. This one, I think you could, I mean, again, it's pretty obvious what you're doing here. It's going to be a very aggro-y strategy. Although I do like the fact that you're doing a +1/+1 counter and aura and equipment theme and spirits. So because you're doing a lot, even though the what you're doing with this deck is probably going to be an aggro strategy, because it's doing so many different things, not any two of this deck is going to look the same, even though it's a precon, so the precons will look the same. But if someone just makes a Chishiro deck, they might go a completely different direction than someone else. They might go more +1/+1 counter. Maybe they put some Spirit Tribal. Is there Spirit Tribal stuff in Gruul colors? Probably not. Well, there's a little bit from the original Kamigawa, but not great stuff. And then you might have someone over here who's doing all equipment, maybe more going a Voltron strategy, something like that. So I like that there's a lot of different directions that you can go with this guy, even though it seems fairly obvious with what he's doing. But that is it. That is all for today. 5 new commanders. And so far, I'm pretty happy with what I've seen. We had Jin Kataxis. That was the one that is setting off a lot of alarm bells for people. I'm okay with it. I don't think it's going to get... it might get banned, maybe. It's funny when you read the comments of the video I did. It's almost split in half. The people that say it should get banned and the people that say it's not really that bad. Or a lot of people saying it's worse than the 99. So it's kind of funny how you get those completely differing opinions on a lot of things like that. But anyway, that's it for today. I'll see you guys next time, and thanks for tuning in.